Welcome to Ani Beast. The mirror was an ugly, lonely orphan boy who had to go through miserable training by his grandpa to become the greatest swordsman alive. But because of all the pain, he ran away from home and rejected the way of the sword. Instead, he became an overpowered martial artist who developed his own secret magic bullet technique, a broken ability that destroys the opponent's insides. Because of the beating he gave to more than 40 students in his previous school, he was expelled and had to get his delinquency cured in his new school. As he walked through the gates, he ran into a cross-dressing boy with a big-ass head called Kuso, who told the mirror that all the boys were forced to dress like girls because of the Supreme 5 Swords. Being a guy that loves the freedom of doing what he wants, he says that he doesn't have a problem with the girls as long as he can still live freely. But Kuso warns him that he won't be going far in this school with that attitude of his. After he was weirded out by Kuso, Nomura goes to a class and saw a bunch of swords pointing directly at him under the instructions of Rin, one of the Supreme 5 Swords. He is told by the purple-haired girl, Saki, that this school used to be an all-girls school, but when it became a co-ed school, all the girls were scared of boys and were allowed to carry weapons, causing the Supreme 5 Swords group to form. The only way to survive in this school is to throw away your dignity as a man. But Nomura is having none of that shit. To keep the playing field leveled, Rin offers to give him a weapon and says that he can either coexist with them as the rest of the boys or leave the school. But when Nomura said no to both of those options, Rin promised to correct his behavior before homeroom was over. However, he jumped to the window, saying that he will come whenever homeroom was over, as no man can leave the school without the permission of the Supreme 5 Swords. Rin chases after him and they get into a fight. She starts attacking him with a sword that is the same size as her and explains how her technique of mirrored breathing allows her to attack with enhanced physical power. Using the gag reflex, Nomura parries her slashes with his feet, but she launches forward to nearly rip his chest off. But after dodging her strike, he tried to kick her off balance. This was her hidden technique, and she slashes at his face, managing to graze his cheeks. Seeing how powerful she is, Nomura pulls out his blade-resistant gloves and begins running towards her. Her blades clash against his blade-resistant gloves, and as they keep deflecting each other's blows, the other girls realize that homeroom is about to end. But as Nomura kept dodging, he tripped on a trunk and had his back against a tree with nowhere left to run. Rin starts attacking him with a barrage of overhead slashes, but Nomura manages to deflect all of her attacks, hoping that she will gas out soon so he can find an opening. His body begins to wear out, but as soon as she lets go, he moves away and puts his hand on Rin's waist. She compliments him as he managed to touch her, but tells him that she'll slash his head if he doesn't remove his hand. However, Nomura tells her that a sword can't do anything against his gun. As she tries to go for her sword, Nomura stops her. But Rin already knew the name of his ability, which led Nomura to get on top of her, asking her how she knew that name. But before she could answer, Rin's subordinate Nono arrives to protect her precious mistress and hits Nomura on the head. Rin's vigilante mask breaks because of this, and she's on the verge of crying. She vows to take her revenge and promises to castrate him after his fight with Rin. Nomura takes a shower with Kuso and checks out his swollen ankle, mentioning that he almost lost to Rin because of this. He asks Kuso about how to obtain the permission slip to leave the school and learns that he can get the slip from Rin. But he needs the stamps of all members of the 5 Swords for the slip to be valid. After taking the shower, he questions Kuso about how to get luxurious items into the school and gets a box of cakes from a smuggler before going to the class. But all the girls distance themselves from him as rumors of him kissing girls when they let their guard down is floating around the school. He then calls out Saki by her underwear color like she doesn't have a name at all and asks her about the whereabouts of Rin. Saki ignores the questions, but another girl named Yui tells him that Rin has a fever and is in the girls' dormitory. So after discovering where she is, he leaves the classroom to meet her at the same time. Rin is hitting the bed with her pillow while calling Nomura a worthless, ugly, disgusting perv. When she calms down, she begins thinking about how she got pinned down and kissed him, but gets angry, thinking that Nomura didn't have to stop kissing her as it was her first time doing it. Sensing a presence coming towards her room, she puts on her broken mask and faces the door only for Nomura to enter through the window, grabbing her sword before she could pull it out from the sheath. He calls her room pretty, but says that she's even prettier, spiking up her fever even higher. He gives her the cake while mentioning how cute she looks with half of her face showing, saying that he was lucky to kiss her. She tries calling him a baka like a typical tsundere, but Nomura asks her for the exit slip. However, Rin refuses to give one to his ugly ass, but when he coldly stares at her, he tells her that getting the slip would allow him to see her in a casual dress, fearing how he might come to a date with her. She hands him the slip without a second thought, telling him that he must come to see her regularly. However, Nomura felt bad, so he offered to give her more kisses in exchange for the certificate. Those words skyrocketed her fever until she passed out from all the heat. Before she could hit the ground, Nomura grabbed her shirt to prevent her from falling and accidentally popped a button that revealed her plot at the same time Nanao entered her room. Refusing to hear any explanation from Nomura, she presses a scary red button that shuts down the whole dormitory, section by section, and activates a bunch of deadly traps that Nomura barely avoids as he escapes the dormitory. Once he was outside, he runs into Kyoko, who is the self-proclaimed head of the Junior Five Swords, and readies her whip to teach him a lesson. Yano arrives at the spot as well, and she too claims to be the head of the junior, and they both prepare to fight. Nomura, because of what he did to Rin Nomura, puts on his gloves and all of them charge forward. Mono strikes his arm down and kicks off him to keep her distance, while Choku manages to injure his right arm with her whip and mentions that only the Empress has gotten away from their deadly duel. As Nono rushes towards him, Nomura easily parries her attacks, but the girls plan to drive him into a corner to pin him down. However, he manages to use their weapons against themselves and says that their weapons are too useless in a head-on battle, especially with how badly they can cooperate. He hits Nono with magic bullet and throws her on top of Choku, revealing her plot armor, wanting to make them respect their elders. Nomura approaches them with a scary look on his face and plans to beat the living shit out of them, but stops when the girls start to cry in fear. Seeing the girls cry, everyone watching the fight begins calling Nomura a perv, and Nomura starts to panic while going back to boys' dormitory. Afterward, he laments himself about not being able to get the certificate as Nono showed up. But Rin appeared and gave him the certificate. After he leaves, Saki and Yui ran up, telling Rin that Nono bent over by Nomura, causing her to get angry faint again the next day in school. Nomura goes to his class, but finds Rin standing in front of him with gleaming eyes, saying that for the sake of protecting the order of this school, she will be supervising him from now on at night. Nomura and Kuzo eat dinner together while Nomura was reading a lewd manga at the same time. Kuzo reminds him that his actions are too violent and that he has made himself enemies with Choku now, as she is the most favored apprentice and sister of Mary. Kuzo tells Nomura that Mary is going to come after him since she likes to drive troublemakers out of the school. However, Nomura tried changing the subject and asked Kuzo about the girl who is known as the Empress. So Kuzo told him about the fight she had with Rin and Mary just after she came to the school. She fought both of them single-handedly and managed to rip off Rin's clothes to reveal her plot armor while also breaking Mary's sword with a single strike, saying that their powers are meaningless compared to hers. As he heard that story, Nomura remembered a similar person that brought him to the brink of death in the past. In the morning, Rin arrives to his dorm and yells at Nomura for being late and goes on to check his bag to see if he has brought any prohibited items. At the same time, Mary came with Choku, telling Rin that Nomura messed up the whole girls' dormitory and developed plot with Choku. However, Rin tries telling Mary that Nomura would never do something like this. But Mary gets so worked up that she forgot to speak Japanese and blames Rin for being too lenient towards Nomura. Seeing things are about to escalate, Rin tells Nomura to get out of there, but he doesn't need a girl to wipe his ass. However, he still goes away as boys don't have a place in girls' talk and gets chased by Choku while Rin fights with Mary. With their fight being a one-on-one this time, Choku won't be making the same mistakes that she did earlier and starts to attack Nomura relentlessly with her whip. However, Nomura takes off his belt and manages to catch her whip easily, but accidentally drops his pants while fighting and blames it on Rin, rushing him earlier to get Trillionetti. Seeing his little sword, Choko's brain melts down after fixing his pants. Nomura sees his arch-enemy Amu, while Mary gets the better of Rin and defeats her. Seeing Amu, Nomura gets reminded of the person that left him bloody and battered in his fight at the previous school as he refused to become his subordinate, even though she has the same aura and speaks just like him. Nomura is confused as the person that bested him in the past was a man while she was a woman. When Nomura asked her if she was a man, Amu revealed that she's always been a woman, but as soon as he tried rushing towards her, Mary stopped him because his sword is still dangling around. Seeing Choku in her state subconsciously referring to Nomura's porcini mushroom, she vows to cut Nomura into pieces and castrate him like a pig. Amu leaves the area and reflects back on the memory of when she tried to recruit Nomura to join her squad. After Nomura had defeated a bunch of her subordinates, he focused his attention on Amu and launches an attack that she easily blocks and gets his guts split open by her counterattack after she keeps on hitting Nomura with her katana strikes. Nomura tells her that her power truly lives up to the rumors back in the present. Amu was angry with herself for not killing Nomura back then, but she promises herself to kill him the next time she sees him. At the same time, Nomura is struggling to fight Mary, who is wielding a rapier and throwing piercing strikes with her Western swordplay, and gets poked by her rapier multiple times in his chest with his blade-resistant gloves being pierced by her strikes. He tries blocking her attacks with his hand, but Mary flicks her sword and nearly slashes his head off as he stands in shock. He gets his back pierced multiple times and tries to dodge away from her attacks. But nothing seems to work against her flick attacks. At the same time, Rin finds Shizuku was still trying to process the sight of Nomura's little sword, but goes in the wrong direction as Choku is struggling to even speak properly. Meanwhile, Mary continues trying to poke Nomura, where his nerves are connected to slow him down, and without any hope left, he tries to get closer to counter Mary's attacks, but gets pierced in the gut by her sword. However, the attack was blocked by the lewd manga that he had hidden under his shirt so Rin wouldn't see it. Mary tries to gain back the range advantage, but Nomura hits her head with the manga and manages to get close enough to use magic bullet on Mary and renders her unable to fight anymore. Thinking that he probably did a lot of humiliating things to Choku and Nono, Mary doesn't want to be left behind, but Nomura doesn't intend to get forced into doing it. The only thing he wanted was her stamp, so he could use it on the permission slip. Realizing the opportunity, she shoves the stamp between her plots so Nomura would have to touch them without any other options. Nomura nearly grabs the stamp, but manages to stop at the last moment. Seeing him control his urges, Mary realizes that men aren't wild animals after all. But as Nomura was about to make her give him the stamp, Rin came in from behind and began beating his ass. However, Mary tries to stop her and explains the whole situation and offers to give Nomura the stamp as long as she gets to supervise him along with Rin. But when she heard those words, Rin began screaming at Mary as Nomura is only hers to take care of. Seeing them fight, Nomura wonders how the fuck he got surrounded by these crazy harem chicks after getting the stamp from Mary. Nomura goes to the school's rooftop and eats his lunch while Rin and Mary are supervising him. Meanwhile, the eldest member of the Supreme Five Swords Warabi has gotten back from her vacation in Hawaii with her pet bear Kubo and sees Nomura getting chased by his supervisors. She didn't expect for such a thing to happen in this school while she was away on her trip, and after she was told about the incidents that happened in this school, she believes that the Five Swords had become useless after befriending a worthless man who needed correction. And since Rin and Mary were assisting Nomura, they became targets on her list for those needing correction. So to put them in their place, she gets approval from the Five Swords Council and arranges an event she calls the War of Picks. A few hours later, Nomura saw Kuso crucified on a cross, but before he could rescue him, Rin and Mary stopped him. Since this could all be a trap, suddenly Warabi makes her entrance, and with her annoying laugh and voice, she tells Nomura that she will give him her stamp and free Kuso if he completes a set of challenges she has prepared for him. She orders for her 3 musketeers to appear, who reveal that they will be fighting Nomura and the girls in the Warbin picks after the musketeers annoy everyone with the same annoying laugh as Warabi. She chastises Rin and Mary for displaying affection to an enemy. Rin and Mary jump in Nomura's defense, telling Warabi that they are just supervising him. But Warabi refuses to listen to anything that they are saying and summons a freaking sumo ring out of nowhere, as the first challenge is going to be a sumo fight. Group is given mawashi by the 3 musketeers, who tell them to wear them properly. Just after they were given the mawashi, Choku and Nono arrive at the spot and engage in battle with the 2 girls from the 3 musketeers, but they are quickly defeated by them. However, Mary comes to their defense and Rin tells them that the council's decision is final and they have to participate in the war Aben picks under any circumstance. As they were dealing with the fight, Nomura wears the mawashi and Rin and Mary take him away as they don't know how to tie them. They thought that it wouldn't be so humiliating. But when Nomura is tying Rin's mawashi for her, she couldn't help but feel her floodgates opening. After Nomura was done putting it on, Mary was too scared to have Nomura put it on for her, so she begs Rin to tie it for her instead. However, Rin forgot how to do it because she was in a different world while Nomura touched her body, so Nomura had to tie Mary up as well. Once they were done, they began going back to the ring, but saw that this entire event was being broadcasted to the whole school by Urabe's subordinates. Seeing the broadcast, Choku and Nono can't help but cry. Seeing their masters in mawashi, Nomura enters the ring and asks the three musketeers about why they aren't wearing mawashi, but they mention that his opponent is on top of the sumo ring. As Nomura looks up, a literal flying bear drops in the ring to fight him like a Russian MMA fighter. Nomura gets ready for the sumo fight and immediately tried tackling Kubo and hits him with the magic bullet multiple times. But none of his attacks have any effect on the bear. As he dodges Kubo's attacks, he steps on his feet and moves behind him to lift him by grabbing his mawashi. Everyone was shocked seeing him carry a bear. But this was all because of his years of fighting grown men when he was just a child, which ultimately strengthened his physical capabilities to inhuman levels. As he tries to carry the bear out of the ring, he has to let go of him as the bear's mawashi got loose. After he drops the bear, he wonders who tied the bear's mawashi, since taking it off is the easiest way to win in sumo wrestling. Seeing his beloved pet bear lose in a sumo fight against an ugly, lonely loser, Warabi gets angry and ends the war of picks, but instead she declares war against Nomura. After the sumo fight is over on Warabi, as he might break some bones doing it alone himself. Hearing this, they get angry as they don't want Warabi to experience the same embarrassment as them and chase after Nomura for even thinking something like this. Rin remembers Nomura's comment about her cute this and decides to look the best for Nomura, while Mary uses her most expensive perfume in hopes that Nomura would notice it later in school. All the girls are drooling over Nomura because of his success at the Horribin Picks, and Ren and Mary can't help but show frustration on their faces, seeing the floodgates of all the girls opening for Nomura. Afterward, in class, the girls are looking at Nomura instead of focusing on the lecture, and when Nomura feels sleepy, Rin gives him a solid kick in the liver to wake him up throughout the rest of the day. Nomura is chased by girls wherever he goes, but he is only able to enjoy a little free time because of the presence of Mary and Rin as they keep the girls away with their scary gaze. While Nomura is eating lunch, he asks the two why they are frustrated, and instead of answering, the girls decide to give him a solid beating after he goes home. The girls feel sad as they go trillionetti, especially for Nomura, and he didn't even compliment them at night. Nomura is being watched by someone secretly, but he doesn't seem to notice her presence and goes to sleep early. When he wakes up the next day, he gets ready and waits for the girls outside the dorm before they even arrive and compliments their looks as their floodgates had opened. Rin forgot to check his belongings and is reminded by Mary to do it. While checking, Rin finds a naked photo of him developing plot with Satori, and the two of them curse themselves for trusting Nomura. They bring out their swords and start to chase after Nomura, who has no idea how and when this happened. While running, he runs into Kubo and Warabi, who help him hide from the girls, and the bear turns from the most menacing thing in human history into the most cute thing to ever exist. After the girls leave, Nomura is told by Warabi that Satori probably wants to create cracks in his relationship with Rin and Mary, and if they don't realize what Satori is planning, she can do anything she wants. Remembering the events that happened last night, Nomura says that his sword wasn't unsheathed and wants to recover the pictures from Satori. But to do that, he needs to go back to the girls' dorm, which has 10 times more traps than the previous time he went there. Warabi warns him that if he goes there, Rin and Mary will surely torture him. But he has something planned in his mind. At night in the girls' dorm, Nomura is hanging upside down over a barrel of water while Rin and Mary hit him relentlessly with sticks. However, Nomura refuses to make a single sound, so the girls keep hitting him until his clothes rip off, and they see the scars on his back. After that brutal beating, Warabi comes in for his rescue with some food and says that it was too insensible for him to plan this. When he met Warabi this morning, he planned to purposefully get himself caught by the girls, and Warabi offered to help him as she finds Sartori's action unreasonable after rescuing him from his cell. Warabi and Nomura, along with the cute pet bear, reached Sartori's room to find clues regarding where the pictures are. Afterward, the three roam around the hall and Nomura accidentally sets foot on a trap tile, causing a bunch of spiky nails to launch towards him. But he manages to dodge them barely. The three then run into Saki and Yui, so Warabi makes Nomura hide behind Kyobo. The girls started to move down the hallway, but Nomura's hands were touching the bear's trigger buttons, which caused the floodgates of Kyobo to open, and she falls to the floor. But Warabi barely manages to keep Nomura hidden. However, the attention of the girls diverts to Kubo's child when he arrives at the spot and distracts the girls with his cuteness. Afterward, Kubo accidentally steps into a trap tile and causes a huge log to come towards them. But Nomura manages to stop it with his inhuman strength. A few hours later, the group investigates Sartori's underwear to see if she has sewn the photos in there, and Warabi notices that Sartori's sword is missing. Suddenly, Sartori's right-hand girl Mizoguchi arrives and shoots a poisonous dart towards Nomura, which Warabi catches at the last second, but she is still grazed by it. Suddenly the mysterious creature Satori arrives at the spot naked and is surprised to see Warabi working with Nomura. Looking at Satori, Nomura wonders what kind of crazy person would bring a sword in a bath. Mizoguchi takes the chance to shoot another dart towards Nomura, but he manages to catch it easily, and Satori reveals that Mizoguchi helped her take those pictures. When Nomura was sleeping, Satori got on top of him without any plot armor, and Mizoguchi took their pictures. But Nomura suddenly woke up because of the camera's flash. So Satori puts a sugar pill in her mouth and kissed Nomura to make him swallow it. Nomura wondered why she would do this thing. But Satori doesn't have a reason at all and just did it because she found Nomura annoying. All of them got ready for the battle, and Nomura goes to fight Satori, while Warabi is planning to deal with Mizoguchi. However, Warabi is unable to see properly as she feels dizzy because of the poison. But she shoves a shuriken in her leg to get back to her senses. Despite that, she still feels so heavy and gets hit in the hand from her poisonous bamboo stick. She pulls up the courage and removes the poison from her hand using the sword after trading a bunch of attacks with her. Warabi is at her limit and goes in for a fake leg sweep to hit her in the guts but fails and drops her sword as she has no power left in her hands. Misaki moves in for the counterattack, but Warabi grabs her hand and uses judo to send her flying. But Misaki tries to hit her with the poisonous darts. However, Wasabi counters and begins beating the living shit out of her. After defeating Misaki, Warabi takes off her mask and gets shocked to see the person behind it. Nomura also managed to defeat Satori barely, after Warabi and Nomura's fight was over. They were both admitted to the infirmary at the girls' dorm as they received a lot of injuries, just after Warabi took off Misawa's mask and got unconscious. Her minions arrive along with the last member of the Supreme Five Swords Inaba and her caretaker. She has super hearing and is able to correctly visualize what is happening from a really far distance. After telling her maid to take Warabi to the infirmary, she goes towards Nomura and Satori, but Satori hears her footsteps and drags Nomura under the water so he won't make a sound. When Inaba arrives, Satori tries to act like she is alone. But Inaba already knew that Nomura was present and tells her to bring the person who isn't here to the fountain in the yard. After she goes away, Nomura comes out of the pool, gasping for air, and asks Satori why she had to hide him. But Satori thinks that he is too weak to fight her right now and would die instantly because of all the torture he received in his gruesome fight against Satori. His body gives up and he hits the floor. Elsewhere, Rin is struggling to keep Nomura away from her mind, and even her dreams are about him. She decides to go to the torture chamber to hear his side of the story, but encounters Mary on the way, who was planning to do the same. They both act like they were going to the cafeteria and decide to do a drinking battle to see which one leaves the cafeteria first. Satori arrives and tells both of them the truth about what she did to Nomura after his injuries were healed. Nomura got up to change back into his clothes, and Rin arrives in the infirmary to apologize. Nomura thought that Rin was angry and tells her to wait as he hasn't put on his pants yet. But Rin just barges inside and apologizes for torturing him as he wasn't wearing pants. Rin gets a glimpse of his sword and turns red like a tomato. The two sit together afterward and Rin tells Nomura that he can do anything he wants to her boy as she wants to be punished for wrongly torturing him. Nomura tells her to close her eyes and takes off her mask, which she gets really embarrassed about. The mirror wonders why she is so embarrassed to show her face. So Rin tells him the story of her past after her father cheated on her mother. He left both of them. But since she has her father's resemblance on her face, Rin's mother told her to wear a mask to hide her ugliness. And she has been wearing a mask ever since. However, all this changed when Nomura took her mask off for the first time and complimented her face, making her want to take the mask off permanently. But she still lacks the confidence to do that. Hearing Rin's story, Nomura gives the mask back to her as she needs to fight this battle alone and tells her that he is an orphan, that an old man decided to take care of and trained him harshly and relentlessly every single day as he was telling his story and causing everyone to cry. Mary arrives at the spot and apologizes to Nomura, as well as an apology. She undresses herself and tells Nomura to have his way with her. Yes, yes, yes. Yup, it's me. No, 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 no. When the sun was setting, Nomura went back to his room and Kuzo asks Nomura if he thinks badly of him, even though he laced his dinner. He only did that to protect the boys' dorm and Nomura still considers him a friend. He then checks his pillow and grabs his permission slip, which has Sartori's stamp as well. Now, looking at the slip, Nomura isn't able to control his excitement as the school is filled with all sorts of crazy but great people. While some girly boys are taking a shower, they see a monster in the window and panic seeing it. They go to Nomura's room to report the incident to him. But Nomura just ignores them and tries to go back to sleep. However, his happy, sleepy time gets interrupted again by Rin, who has come to pick him up. Meanwhile, Inaba reports to the headmistress Yukina that Amu has left her room and is increasing the amount of carbs she is taking to prepare for something. Hearing this, Yukina orders all the classes to be suspended outside the boys' dorm. Nomura wonders where Mary went off to since she didn't come with Rin and learn that she is busy at her dorm. Rin thinks that a lot of things are going missing around the school as Kubo's child Duomo is also wandering off somewhere and isn't seen for some time. At the same time, Warabi was searching for Duomo with her minions and wants to find him before Sartori gets her hands on him, as she tends to treat him like a stuffed animal and act rough with him. Once Nomura and Rin reach the school, they are told by Mary that Choco's wig has gone missing and she isn't able to come out of her room because of it. In the school hallways, Mary and Warabi have an argument with each other about what needs to be rescued for. War Army thinks that Duomo is a living being and he needs to be rescued first. But Coco's wig is part of her very being and she can't live without it. So Mary wants to rescue it first. However, Nomura remembers what the girl boys complained about and decides to wait outside the boys' bathing area while the girly boys take a shower when the supposed monster appears. Nomura goes in and finds out that it was just Woma wearing Coco's wig. After both are rescued, Shizuku came into the spotlight and surprises everyone by the way she looks without her wig. Once they were done, Saki told everyone that all the classes were cancelled today, and Mary revealed that Amu is missing at the school's rooftop. Amu sees Satori and Misogi there and she holds a copy of the photo where Satori was developing plot with Nomura and cuts it to pieces. She tells Satori that while she can move on from enemy to an enemy, this time she has messed with the wrong person, as Nomura is only hers to take care of since it has happened already. Satori can't do anything about it and pretends to leave the roof, but attacks Amu. Once she gets close, however, Amu manages to avoid her attack and shove her blade-like fingers into Sartori's guts, using her auto-counter ability as she moves to finish off Satori. Mizuki uses her poison dart on Amo, but it just bounces off her steel-like skin to protect Satori. Misogi puts herself in harm's way and gets gravely injured by Amu as the girls are lying on the floor on the brink of death. Amu tastes Mizuguchi's blood and realizes that they are both sisters. Seeing her sister, whom she always looked down upon, bloody and battered, Satori doesn't know how to react and decides to scream out loud while crying, but Amu is annoyed by it and shuts her down. Hearing all the commotion, Wasabi arrives at the spot with Kibo and they both prepare themselves to go against that monster. Even though they land their attacks on Amu, they couldn't pierce her skin and get defeated instantly by her auto-counter Tiger Claw. At the same time, Nomura is walking around the school with Kusuo and runs into Inaba. Fujo warns him that Inaba is the strongest girl in the academy, despite only being in middle school. But Nomura approaches her regardless, and she moves in lightning speed to put her sword on Nomura's neck. However, she puts her sword away and Nomura falls on the floor after shedding his pants from her speed. Inaba tells Nomura that she won't put her sword away next time, since he has already committed so many offenses in the school. When Nomura gets confused hearing this, she tells him that Yukino has entrusted her with his case and points out all the transgressions he has committed till now. Unlike the other girls, Inaba has immense control over her anger. But even she is at her limit, seeing Nomura doing what he wants around the school. While she is talking, a moth flies in her vicinity and she immediately cuts it down. Seeing the poor creature getting killed, Nomura tells her to stop with the needless killing and learns that Inaba is blind and can't tell the difference between moths and butterflies. So she just kills them both. Meanwhile, Amu delivers some fatal blows to Kubo and Warabi lets out a loud scream that Nomura hears. The rest of Garev's minions arrive there as well, and Saruwatari immediately goes in for the attack and hits her head with a wrench. But it has no effect on Amu and she immediately renders him unable to fight anymore. Tanuki, Hara and Toko move in to attack Amu, but she takes their attacks head on and shoves her blade-like hands in their guts. Nomura thinks that there is some sort of commotion going on the roof and learns from Inaba that Amu is there. On the first day Amu came to this school, she specifically tried to not get along with anyone, but she spoke fondly of Nomura. She continues to keep on blabbering, but Nomura leaves her talking to herself and runs toward the rooftop. As Amu was about to finish off her minions, Warabi begs her to spare them and kill her instead. Hearing this, Andrew slashes her eyes so she won't have to see her minions getting destroyed by her. The mirror arrives at the rooftop and sees everyone on their last breath. He holds on to Warabi and tries to call for help, but Yukino is standing just behind him without him noticing. At the same time, Amu comes across Inaba, who was severely angry but decided to stay out of it as they weren't her friends. After Amu moves by Inaba, she runs into Mary and Rin along with their subordinates and gets ready for the fight. Meanwhile, Nomura wonders how Yukino managed to get behind him without him noticing and wonders how strong she is. She examines Warabi and says that her eyes are still alright, but she will need surgery. When Nomura asks how he can help her, Yukino points out the battle going downstairs and tells him to help the girls while she takes care of the wounded. Mary and Rin work together to attack Amu, but even they were no match for her power. Seeing them work together makes Amu wonder if Nomura was the reason for their change. Rin mentions that Amu's whole body is like a blade and thinks that it must be an ability she has. But Amu has strengthened her body to a point that she can use any part of her body as a blade. After dealing with Rin and Mary, Amu focuses her attention on their subordinates. But Inaba comes and asks Saki if she is her friend scared by her. Saki says that she is her friend. And the novel gets ready to fight the narcissistic bitch. Wanted to wait until she could fight Inaba, but without any other option, she decided to take care of her now. Inaba warns her to not take her lightly and goes into her stance, which lets out a chilling mist all around. With her incredible speed, she slashes Amu 3 times in a single second, but she is injured by her auto-counter and finds out that her sword is broken. Amu feels lucky since if Inaba's sword was original, she would have been in a lot of trouble. But Inaba is using a cheap sword made from a zinc alloy. As she moves to finish off Inaba, Nomura saves Inaba, but escalates the situation even more. In his previous school, Nomura went to Amu and thought that he was a cute man. He tells Amu that he might just kiss his cute ass and say no homo and tells her to fix her hat. But while she does it, Nomura gets behind her and tries to kiss her, but she shoves him away with her elbow and they both shake hands to enjoy their time at school together. Later in his class, Amu approaches Nomura to give him a tour around the school, but he refuses as he has plans with his friend. The narcissist fuck isn't used to getting rejected in the face, so she attacks Nomura's friend and tells him to only be with people who are worthy like her. After shoving Inaba away from Amu, Nomura punches her in the face, but she retaliates and hits him in the guts. However, Nomura has the lewd manga hidden in his shirt, and he was protected by it again. As if fighting him wasn't enough, Inaba grabs her sword and gets ready to slash him, since she told him to never come in front of her again. However, since he rescued her, Inaba wonders if he wants to be her friend. But Nomura says that words don't make people friends. It is the experience they go through together that makes them friends instead of some vague words. Scared of her tremendous power, Nomura puts on his gloves and wonders if he can beat her. The only chance for Nomura to beat Amu is by using his magic bullet. But if he messes up even a little, she will hit him with the auto-counter and end his life. Looking at Nomura shaking scares Rin as well, since even he appears to be scared of Amu. She tries to encourage him the same way he did before, but struggles to put the words in her mouth. Suddenly, her eyes shift to Amu's chest scar, the one that Nomura created with his magic bullet in their fight at the previous school. Seeing this, Rin and Mary tell Nomura to not lose faith as his magic bullet will surely work on her like it did on them. Inaba sees their growth from becoming enemies to friends and wonders if this is what it's like to be friends with someone. After hearing Rin and Mary encouraging him, Nomura moves in to attack Amu, but she grazes him on his arm and dodges him perfectly. He approaches her again, but is forced to his knees when he gets hit by an elbow on his guts. Amu has a chance to finish him off, but decides not to do that and throws his coat on his face to block his vision. She goes for a kick instead, but Nomura is able to dodge it because of Inaba, who tells him to dodge towards her so he can return the favor. She tells Nomura that he is afraid and attacks Amu half-heartedly, which allows her to get the best of him. After receiving a piece of useful advice from her, Nomura unbuttons his shirt and prepares himself for the second round. Suddenly, the clouds started to pour out rain and Amu belittles herself for not being able to get close to Nomura and decides to kill Nomura if he can't be hers. Nomura takes up a stance like he is wielding a sword and moves towards Amel in unreal speed. She manages to carve a cross on his chest with her hands. But Nomura keeps on moving forward and sends her flying by hitting her with his magic bullet. Seeing her getting hurt by his attack, Nomura tells Amu to give it her best, and they both engage in a deadly boxing match, blocking the blows with their face. Amu and Nomura forget that something like defense even exists and just hit each other relentlessly, feeling immense pain from the hits she is receiving. Amu tells Nomura to give her even more pain as it makes her forget the burning pain in her heart. She wants Nomura to only think about her and gives him an uppercut that launches Nomura in the air. But he is able to keep his ground and hits her with his magic bullet while she uses auto counter and splits open his guts. As he was falling to the ground, Amu grabs him and Nomura realizes that she still isn't using all of her strength against him. However, Amu was just playing along with his way of fighting. Since Nomura doesn't fight to win, but to make the other person listen to him. Realizing that loving is losing, she puts his hand on her chest and tells him to be hers. As Nomura remembers all the memories of the times they spent together, he looks her in the eye, telling her that he won't be hers. After the fight was over, Inaba puts her sword on Nomura's neck and points out all the flaws in his fighting style. In order to fix this, she wants Nomura to be her student, and in return she will give her stamp to him. But Nomura, being his usual self, wants to refuse. Before he utters the words, some masked girls arrive and try to finish off Ayumu. But Yukino stops their attacks and tells Nomura that he has been expelled from the school even though he won the fight. Nomura was still gravely injured and gets his body treated in the infirmary the next day. He is the first one to recover among the people who got injured and goes to Urabe's room to say goodbye to her. He then goes to Saki. But being the emotionless bitch she is, she doesn't know what to say and makes the most annoying face possible. Meanwhile, Rin and Mary beg Yukino to not expel Nomura as he fought only to stop Amu's rampage and to preserve the peace of the school. But Yukino can't reverse his expulsion anymore. Outside of his dorm, he sees Inaba in the garden, who tells him that Amu went to the airport to leave the country. He rushes to leave the school, but Inaba stops him as he still doesn't have her stamp. Even though he is expelled and is no longer part of the school, he is still a student until the paperwork of his expulsion concludes. As Amu is about to board her flight, Nomura stops her and jokingly asks her to run away with him. However, Amu wishes to do what she wants and tells Nomura to do the same and to always be himself. He asks Amu if he has anything to say to the students back at the school. So Amu kisses Nomura and commands him to tell everyone that he will always be hers. Still processing what she said, Nomura asks Amu when he became hers, and Amu tells him that he is living rent-free in her heart. From the first moment she looked at him after seeing Amu off. Nomura meets Rin at a bus stop and compliments her fashion sense as this is the first time he is seeing her in casual clothes. As he was about to talk about the expulsion, Mary arrives at the bus stop as well, and they both tell Nomura that Yukino was just kidding about not being able to reverse the expulsion order and has agreed to reverse the decision as Nomura only fought to protect everyone. But as a precaution, Rin and Mary have to tightly hold onto his reins as the three were going back to school. Rin unsheathes her sword and gives Nomura the choice to coexist with them or leave the academy. Nomura values his freedom and denies both of these choices. He reaches the school's gate and sees everyone waiting to welcome him back to school. Seeing them excited to have him back, Nomura feels happy. For the first time as a student of this school, you set your heart ablaze, go beyond your limits,